Okay. Good afternoon, Attorney General.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
I'm doing okay today. Okay, we're going to start our working session, the GGB. We're going to start with our Attorney General. I thought what we would do is the best way is to go down the list and you could kind of respond to some of the questions that we had were asked of you on the last meeting.
And Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
have enabled screen sharing, so if the Attorney General wants his staff to do any screen sharing, that we're primed to do that.
Who are you looking for?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, that's all right. Please go ahead.
We have screen sharing enabled, Representative Baker. So if the Attorney General's team wants to put share any documents on the screen, they're able to do so.
Thank
We
you.
can wait a few minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we're happy to proceed however you'd like. I know you were there for the presentation we made to the entire committee and asked us questions at that time. As you know, the Attorney General's office is very busy. Oh, somebody's there. And apart from the Department of Revenue Services returns more money to the state of Connecticut than any other office or state agency. In some years as high as 25%, 20 to 25 times our annual budget in terms of the return to the people of this state. We're happy to, I don't think you want us to go through our presentation again. If you want us to, we can. We're happy to do whatever you want. We did respond to very specific questions in writing, which we provided to the committee, I believe, last evening. For efficiency's sake, would you like us to answer specific questions? Or I don't want to go over things if people feel like that's not helpful to them. So I'm happy to answer specific questions or take them one at a time, however you'd like to proceed.
Well, I wanted to kind of, if you can elaborate on some of the questions that
Sure.
were asked of you, and then if some of the committee members wanted to ask some additional information, to ask additional questions revolving around your response to your answers.
So why don't I set the table this way?
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If that's okay with the committee members? I see Representative Harrison, you had a question. Your mic is muted.
I did have a specific question, but if and I'm a little unclear, if he's just going to go through his answers, I can wait until he gets to that answer. I can ask now.
Yes,
whatever you
yeah, I was thinking that we would go down the list and he could Attorney General and his team can respond to the questions and if there were additional questions revolving around some of those responses and elaborate on some more information, we could take each of the questions. Okay.
Yeah. Before we get started on the specific questions, maybe I'll make a 10,000-foot general comment to set the table, because I think that speaks to many of the questions that were asked. So we have a little over 300 total people in our office. And Toria, by the way, is the Assistant Deputy Attorney General in charge of administration and management and is principally responsible for managing our budget. So let me introduce her here, and is one of the senior most and most experienced lawyers in our state, and has been with the office for many years. But in short, we have 300 plus people, depending on the day, and of that 200, a little over 200 are lawyers. Some of our positions are funded not out of our budget, but there are various positions that were either funded by legislation or funded by a grant or funded by an agency. Those are a handful, and not the bulk of our head count. And so we are smaller than we used to be under previous attorneys general in terms of head count. And in particular, there are areas in which we are dramatically smaller, which would surprise you, like in consumer protection. We used to be much bigger in consumer protection than we are today, which I think the people of the state would not like to see. They'd like to see more consumer protection lawyers and investigators and staff. But we do a lot more in other spaces. For example, in privacy, our public safety and child protection departments are the biggest departments in our office. They do some of the most difficult work. So roughly 300 or so, and of that, roughly 200 lawyers. We have authorized a certain number of positions. But of course, there's a difference between what's been authorized at some point or another and what we have budget for. Okay, and so I think I get confused about this, by the way. So and I never sat on Approps for finance, and I think there was a reason for that when I was in the legislature. But there's a big difference between, I think, 30 or so positions that are vacant and authorized, which means they're open. We could fill them if we had the money, but we don't have the money to fill all of those positions. Because of the retirement wave, there have been various times over the past year or two where we've had more vacancies than we normally do. But right now, and this has been the case, for the past year, we have a handful of vacancies that are open that we're trying desperately to fill. The legal labor market is tough right now, as it is for many state agencies, but we're trying to fill them as quickly as we can. But there's a handful at any one time of vacancies that we have budget for and could fill. That number changes day to day because we're able to fill them, or other people give us notice that they're leaving. And so that number is a bit in flux. Is that a fair summary, Antoria?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So just so we're clear, it's not like we have, 30 positions that we have money for that we've been unable to fill. That's not the case. We do have 30 available positions, but we don't have budget to fill them all. So with that, Kara, do you want to share our answers on the screen? Kara's the chief of staff, for those of you who served in the House and in the Senate, but you'll remember Kara from her long service as the Speaker's General Counsel. So you had a question about tobacco, and here's the information about tobacco. The short of it is, again, to remind the members of the subcommittee, Connecticut receives roughly $120 million every year from the tobacco settlement. I'll say that again, $120 million every year. And under the governor's budget, we're now going to drop our enforcement dollars that we spend in our state on tobacco related enforcement from 12 million to 6 million. That is a fraction of what we get every single year. And then on top of that, the governor purports to stop funding 2 positions that we need for tobacco enforcement, and to basically put that on us so that we have to fund it out of our available positions. A, we can't afford that. B, it really poses a risk to those huge payments that we receive every year of the 124 million if we don't do robust tobacco enforcement. And I would say that not only do we need those two positions to be funded, but we need some more help in tobacco, frankly, to continue to meet our obligations under the tobacco settlement and not endanger those payments.
So, what do you said that you need more positions to help you. Can you elaborate specifically on those other positions that you're needed? What will they be doing?
So let me just say, we at least need to restore the two positions that the governor has indicated he would not fund. I'll give you a couple of examples. One is every day we do tobacco enforcement against companies and people who are selling cigarettes in violation of the settlement agreement and or in violation of state law. And so that's a continuing obligation that we have under the settlement agreement. And if we don't do that in a robust way, basically the companies that are paying our settlement funds, that are paying Connecticut every year, they could make a claim that we're not meeting our end of the bargain and that our payments should be reduced. So that happens all the time, by the way. The tobacco companies are always trying to look for ways to reduce their payments. We don't want them to reduce their payments. And so we want to be able to say, no, we're working really hard in tobacco enforcement, and here's what we're doing. Related to that, by the way, is we're doing a ton now in vaping enforcement. And as you know, I entered into a 400 million plus settlement with Juul, which was at one time the leading vape maker and producer in this country. We have taken a big bite out of Juul and have put it on the brink of going out of business, frankly, which is good for kids. But at the end of the day, the youth vaping epidemic is still a huge problem. And we could use more lawyers to do both tobacco and vaping work. I don't have a set number of people that I'm asking for, Kara, but if you want to jump in here, certainly if the committee were willing to restore the two positions and then add one or two positions, that would be hugely helpful to our work.
Yeah, just to clarify on those points, the two positions are funded directly through tobacco settlement funds. So they're not showing up in the documents that you have that analyzes the general fund. These are two positions that are from off budget accounts that, again, are funded through the settlement dollars that come in, as the AG said, every year, about 120 million. So we would be asking for either those funds to be restored or that they be picked up through the general fund so that we can continue to do that enforcement work that that 120 million a year depends on.
Okay, those two positions, you said we would see them where? They're not in the general fund, but where are they at?
They're funded through the tobacco settlement fund.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we have questions. Representative Michio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And hello, Attorney General Tom. And
Representative,
how are you?
how are you?
Good, good. Looking forward to our meeting coming up, Kara. So these two positions that you're saying, so they were actually originally funded in the tobacco fund, so we wouldn't see them in the general budget, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so then we would need to find a mechanism to get those positions put back into that fund. Do you know what else they're using the tobacco fund for?
So in our write-up here, we do get 125,000 annually to our OE transferred from the tobacco settlement fund. There's a similar transfer, I believe, in statute in 4-28E that goes to DRS for enforcement. And then last year, as you know, 12 million went to the Tobacco and Health Trust Fund to be allocated through the Tobacco and Health Trust Fund Board, which I understand is in the process of getting set up. And then the rest of the money has traditionally gone to the general fund.
Okay, so, but it's in an off books account. It's not in like in an account that we can really see in this budget.
Correct.
Okay. And I believe when we had met, you said something like we're almost kind of regulated to have these positions in order to do the enforcement, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. That's all that I had for right now. Thank you very much.
All right. Representative Harrison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, so you want the two funds restored, the two positions restored. Do you only have two positions in that fund, or is there something else? Are there other positions that are helping with that?
There are only two positions that are dedicated to that work. I will tell you that we, as an office, many of us contribute to the tobacco related work and so there are many people that help those two positions in their tobacco related work. And let me just say that tobacco related people also do the vaping related youth vaping epidemic work as well. That isn't explicitly funded by the tobacco settlement. So there's no shortage of work and it's done by more than two people.
Okay, understood. And are those two people just lawyers, or are you actually also employing people that are going out in the field and, you know, doing that kind of undercover work, trying to buy cigarettes in stores and all of that, or is that funded elsewhere?
And Tori, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. The two positions are actually one lawyer and the paralegal in that section. There is another attorney who also, the majority of her work is on tobacco, but that we don't have enough money in from the tobacco fund to support her position, but she is working on that work. They work with DCP. They don't actually, our paralegal doesn't actually go out and investigate, you know, to buy cigarettes. That's a function of DCP. And I know DCP is funded for that, and they do fund several positions to assist, and we assist them with that. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we need to ask DCP if they're getting money from the settlement to do the work.
Yes.
Perfect.
And DRS does some tobacco related work
Yes.
too.
DRS, yeah.
Yeah, theirs is a little bit more on the revenue side rather than that's a different enforcement, right? So thank you for that. We all agree that people should not be smoking and we should do whatever we can to help with that. So thank you.
Yeah, again, and I think Representative Nuccio, I see her hand up again, but I think what your previous question implies is that we receive a ton of money from this settlement, obviously, every single year, and it is over 20 years, billions of dollars, and it is something that we want to continue to receive. But if we don't hold up our end of the bargain and do robust tobacco enforcement work and demonstrate that we're doing robust tobacco enforcement work, and that we don't focus our dollars in part on smoking cessation and stopping people from either continuing to smoke or becoming new smokers, those funds can be endangered. And the big manufacturers can say, well, we're not going to pay you as much as we do. And as a percentage, I'm sure you know, of the overall amount, two positions is a very small percentage.
Right.
And it's a small investment to pay for 124 million every year.
Yeah, I actually think it's a disgrace that the state of Connecticut has done so little. They've gotten this money for so long and literally done nothing except feed the general fund with it. So, I am not a fan of how this has been managed for the last couple of decades.
I guess if I could make a request, and it's not through you, but Mr. Chair, if maybe we could reach out to OPM and ask them if they can supply to us the off budget account for this settlement so that we know how much they're given and how much is being expensed, because we do know it goes across other agencies. That might be very helpful to us. Thank you.
Okay, okay, so what we can do, you can send Susan the email with the request. I was looking at the time and to be mindful of where we're at. We have about maybe 10 more minutes. So is there, we might have to just kind of skim through. Is there anybody in the committee that has any of the questions or on the response from the Attorney General? Representative Nichio?
Thank you, sir. My question, you answered the question about the opens and the vacancies. I don't have the file that I sent over in front of you. I'm just wondering if you could speak briefly about any lapses that you currently had in the prior year, what accounts you lapsed in, and if you are projecting any lapses in this upcoming year.
Let me say this generally, and then I'll let Antoria weigh in. We don't anticipate significant lapses. The lapses that happened last year were due in part to a technology project that did not develop as quickly as we had wanted it to, and because of that, the money we had dedicated to it lapsed. We also tend to hold back some money because of anticipated retirements and or potential retirements, and needing to pay out accrued benefits to people that do retire. And so we tend to be cautious about that. And that is another source of the lapsing. The only other thing that I can imagine is that we continue to have trouble hiring people. And if we're unable to hire as many people as we need to hire, you could see a lapse there. And Tori, do you have anything else to add on that?
Yes, and no, we will see some a lapse for those reasons. Last year was, as you know, was unprecedented with so many retirements. And we have had some difficulty in filling some of the positions. Luckily, we've been able to fill most of them, but there's still several vacant positions, and each payroll that adds up if we don't fill those positions. So if you see a lapse in PS, that's a big part of it, is that we have not been able to fill the positions that we have been recruiting for, and we're in the process of trying to do that still. So you may see a lapse there, and the general is correct with the $650,000 in other expenses was for a technology project. And as we further investigated that, we had some privacy concerns, some confidentiality concerns with our work being a law office technically. So we're looking at that, and we may request some of that to be carried forward. But the majority of that lapse is because of that project.
Thank you very much.
Representative Nietzsche, is that all the questions?
Yes.
All right, Representative Harris.
I think you sort of answered my question, because I did read through the lapses and I saw where you were going to do a project to get your files up in the cloud, and apparently you haven't been successful at that. I guess my question now is twofold. Do you plan to do that? And I would like to be assured that we have appropriate backups for all of your work, and that it's still stored in the confidentiality and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly, Representative. That was one of our biggest concerns, is as we look deeper into that, being a law office, and the company that we were looking at really had no comparisons as far as other attorney general's offices or type legal offices. So right now we I don't believe we're planning to do that. We're in the process of upgrading a lot of the present systems that we have, which are very good. But we're looking to upgrade those. So I don't believe we're going to be requesting $650,000 to, further pursue that. No.
Okay, so you're going to continue to keep it in-house.
Yes.
Well, there might be some costs associated with that.
With that, well, there will be.
Understood.
Yeah.
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 Because it has-
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I
that's-
would assume
yeah.
upgrade some of the system
Yes.
that you have in-house.
Yes, and that's
Right.
why we're not going to request the full amount, I believe, going forward. We will request a portion of that for the upgrades and the trainings that go along with that, et cetera.
part of
So
the,
thank you for that. I know we need to move along, and that was my question at the beginning, so thank you.
thank you.
Representative Nietzsche, do you have another question? Your hand is up.
No,
Um,
thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to 1 minute to follow up on Representative Harrison's point. Connecticut is a leader in the data privacy space. We were the first Attorney General office in the country to create a section related to data privacy. We lead on almost every major data breach in this country, the big ones. And so, Representative Harrison, it's really important that we get that right, because we're wagging our fingers at everybody else. And so that's why there's so much focus on data privacy and data security in our office. Representative Baker, you asked questions about fraud prevention. Let me just say that we have asked, and this is before before government administration and elections, we have asked for expanded false claims authority here in Connecticut, and people are routinely shocked and surprised to hear that the Attorney General does not have basic authority to go after misconduct and waste, fraud, and abuse in the spending of state money, except for in the health and human services space. So hopefully GAE and both chambers will see fit to give us that expanded authority so that we can protect taxpayer dollars. And with that, we're requesting 7 positions so that we can really go after misconduct related to state money, like school construction, like potentially what happened in West Haven, like potentially what happened in New London. Places like that need our attention urgently, and there really isn't an office in state government that does that work.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you and your staff for coming out and sharing us and responding to many of the questions that I've asked. I'm sure that as we continue to wrap up this subcommittee, we'll probably be reaching out to your office for some more follow-up questions. So we appreciate your time. Any other members have any other questions? Okay. All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
and,
Thank you to the members and the staff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Susan? Susan? Is there anybody from the controller's office? Guess nobody here.
I'm sorry, I am here. I'm admitting the comptroller and some members of his team. The comptroller's coming on right now.
Okay, thank you.
Team.
I thought you left me.
I'm sorry, I did briefly. Thank goodness for Senator Austin, who said they're looking for you. So here I am.
Okay,
So Comptroller Scanlon is on whenever you're ready.
good afternoon, Mr. Controller.
Good
How
afternoon.
are you today?
Good to see you.
And you and your staff. So I don't know how you wanted to proceed. Do you have any a breakdown of any of the questions that were answered?
Yes, Representative, we submitted some responses to the questions that we were asked both during the overall Approps hearing a few weeks back, and then some subsequent questions that we received from members of the subcommittee. Hopefully you all have those. If you don't, we can certainly get that to you. And I'm not sure, Mr. Subcommittee Chair, whether you prefer for me to sort of go through those now, or if you want to open it up for people to ask me some questions. I would flag, though, that the one thing that I wanted to draw to the committee's attention was that in the first presentation that I made, I neglected to discuss something that I thought might happen and did in fact happen, which was that my office is requesting an additional $220,000 in FY25 for licensing related to an increase in Core CT users from the teachers' retirement system. To put that in plain English, basically, Core CT is the software that we use for pretty much everything in state government. It's run by our office, and we recently have been moving the teachers' retirement system to Core CT and then to the cloud. And as a result of that, we have a lot of licensing that we need to do. And there's a $220,000 increase in that we thought was coming, but I didn't want to get into in the original appropriations conversation, but now obviously wanted to flag for all of you. So outside of that, my testimony is largely unchanged, but I'm here to answer any questions that you or members may have about the Comptroller's office. And we have our team here as well to help me do that.
Okay, so you don't have any response with you, and that you can be able to go question by question?
I do, Representative. If you want to do that, I certainly can do that. It's up to you.
Okay. All right. So since I see members of the committee with their hands up, I think everybody's kind of geared up already. So we're going to start with Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Comptroller. I have a couple of questions. And mostly my questions revolve around the gap accruals and what the governor put in. And I even talked to the Office of Fiscal Analysis about this issue. And it's not easily understood, at least from my perspective, with a total of gap accruals over $200 million added into the spending cap component of things. And I'm trying to get to the bottom as I look at our spending cap. My understanding, I don't know if it always has been under the spending cap, but this 202 or 200 plus $1 million, is there any way that you could have your staff sort of do a written response that says, what's that relative to? How do we get to that $202 million and the net piece of that, so that I have a better understanding? And so is there any way I can get that information?
Yes, definitely. I see Charlotte is taking notes, but would you like an audible response now? I believe Carol
Sure,
Sally.
but I don't think that an audible response, you can respond, but I need to see the numbers. So
Okay.
I was trying to get like a sort of an Excel sheet that lists them all out and says, or whatever form you want to use, and then says what that's related to and how that is calculated out. So I want to understand that much better than I do.
Yes.
And when I asked the question, they suggested I bring this up to you. So if your staff could really delve down into the detail of those numbers, that would be very helpful.
Yes, we can do that.
My second question is relative to the situation with the higher education units. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of what was transferred over from the higher education units and is now being paid for directly out of the comptroller's numbers, so that I don't know that I see that those numbers on this side. I don't know where I would see that. I assume it would be in fringe benefits. And if I could understand that a bit better.
Senator, just so I can clarify, are you talking about the governor's proposal with regards to fringe?
I am.
Okay, that can be found in attachment number 1 in the document that we sent around. And I don't know if you don't have that, let me know. And once you do have that, somebody from our team can walk you through that.
Okay, great. Those are my 2 questions, Mr. Chair. I just want some greater detail on those. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator, do you and the committee have that in front of you? If
Sure
somebody...
we do. I'm sure we do. I've just been popping in and out of meetings, so I have to go back to my Susan Keene file and dig that one out.
Okay, but would you like us to answer that in real time right now, or just in the future?
Sure, that would be great. Yes.
Okay, Carol, Salwin, are you available to answer that question?
Yeah, Sean, I am. So I guess, Senator, do you want to tell me when you have attachment A, when you're looking at it? And
I don't know if you want to show it up on you could screen share it if you want. Can you do that?
and I can, unfortunately, I have it. Let me,
I think I just did.
perfect, thank you. Because I actually have it on my other computer, so I apologize. It's an eye
Can you-
chart. Go
Can
ahead.
you open that up a bit so that we can actually see the numbers?
You can't see size -6, Senator? Sorry.
I thought somebody sent me a map and I said, oh my God, I need to get my glasses checked. I can't read this map. And
I
go
can,
even more.
Carol, just direct me which you want me to zoom in on, because I'm going to start losing the whole page here. So do you want me to go on the left-hand column or the proposal side to explain it first?
Yeah, I think if we can, so yeah, if you want to go to the left-hand column first, I guess we can look at the current status of the GF supported.
Yeah.
All right, so so this is showing by each of the higher eds, the different types of fringe expenses. And you can see that you have your active ones, which are the group life, the medical insurance, the unemployment comp, the FICA, and the Medicare. And then the ones that are bolded are the ones that are, primarily related to legacy costs. So they're the retirement ones, SERS retirement, regular and hazard, the ARP retirement, and the teacher's retirement. So in the way that currently the fringe works is the top part that says, general funds, GF supported or general fund supported. These are the amounts that the general fund currently pays for fringe. So it's a component of all of the active and the pension related, retirement related fringe costs. And then, so that's the, for example, for UConn, it's the 201 million you see there. And then the UConn share that they pay for the staff that aren't considered general fund supported is the 156.9 million that you see below. So right underneath that. So that's the current process. The current process is they allocate employees to general fund, and we pay all the fringe for them. And then they pay the fringe for the others. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then Sean, if you can move over to the column to the right, the middle column, we can show, the section to the right. This is showing the proposal. So the current proposal is that we switch it so that all of the active fringe costs, so life insurance, medical, FICA, Medicare, unemployment, is covered by the higher eds. And then the general fund will cover all of the retirement costs. So you see in that scenario, instead, UConn will receive 222 million of general fund support, and they will pay 136.3 million. And so the change there for them, this is just showing one of the higher eds, and we show it for each of the higher eds. The change there is a difference of $20.6 million.
And is this, I apologize, Mr. Chair, is this then
That's okay.
both the unfunded liability, the liability and the regular costs of the pension? So is it both those numbers?
It's all the retirement costs, but 90, something along the lines of 94, 95% of those costs relate to the legacy costs. So, you know, it is primarily related to like the legacy costs, unfunded liability.
Thank you.
Is that it, Senator?
Yes, I think that's what I have. Is this the middle column? Is there another column after this?
I think there was, I can't remember if there, no, it looks like that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any way that you could?
Actually,
I'm not
I'm
sure
sorry.
if we got a
Sorry.
copy of that. If you could have that sent to us, the committee.
Actually, Chairman, can I actually go one step further on that? If that's okay, because that same document.
Can you send us a email that to us, committee? Okay. Okay, so we have a hands up, Representative Harrison and then Representative Michio next. Representative Harrison?
So my question, I have two, if you don't mind. It says that you are looking to implement software, ACRFR software, that would streamline the process for you to do a lot of your analysis. And, you know, generally I'm supportive of stuff like that because we can get better, you know, better data, better answers. My question is has that been included in your budget or is that an additional ask?
It's an additional ask, but Carol, can you speak to that?
Sure. It is an additional ask. We hadn't considered it at the time that we were putting the budget together, you know, earlier last year. But related, you know, just related to looking at our process and seeing ways that we can improve the process and related to the question we had received regarding some of the audit findings that we have that are now, you know, 9-10 times we've had the same audit finding about errors in the gap forms. We thought that this would, using the software would allow us to kind of improve our ACFR process and be able to not have audit findings anymore. So that's why we wanted to make this request.
Okay, so how much is the request? And maybe it's at the end and I missed it, so sorry about that.
It's, yeah, there is a attachment. It's so we
attachment 4.
Attachment 4. So we included a range, you know, so I think if we go to, can you pull up is it possible to pull up attachment 4, Sean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it right now.
All right, thank you.
Is that it, Representative Harrison?
No, let me find. I had a second question.
Go right ahead.
Can you want to keep the funding for the Women's Business Development Council? Can you expand on that?
Yes.
And please, you know, it's something I'm not aware of. So if you could start with a whole explanation. So who are they and where were they going to go and why do you want to keep them?
Well, I'm pulling up attachment 4, Representative Harrison, so Carol can answer your question about that, and then I will speak to the second question when she's done. Okay.
Great, thank you. So if you're able to see attachment 4 now, you can see it's a range because there is a base platform cost, and then if you wanted to also include, you know, lease functionality. And if you wanted to actually automate the gap packages, the gap forms that we get from the agencies to actually be in the system, that's an additional cost. So down at the bottom, you can see fiscal year 24 implementation costs. So the range is 225,000 to 500,000. So we would appreciate anything in that range. You know, if we could get the 500,000 and be able to automate the gap packages, that would be amazing. But if I can, you know, get the 225,000 for the base, that would still improve the process tremendously. And then you can see, you know, that includes the implementation cost of having the consultant come in and develop the package. And then the ongoing cost is much lower. So depending on whether you include the gap forms or not, that would be, you know, fiscal year 25 and ongoing, an additional 70 to 110,000 a year.
And I would also say, Representative, that we're Kiva, who is the consultant that we'd be working with here. They provide this software to 24 other American states. So almost half of the states in the country are using their platform to work on the aquifer and to better, account and report. So this is something that's a tested thing, and we thought that it would help augment the good work that Carol and her team are already doing when it comes to budget and financial analysis. And it's something that has been done, again, in half the states in the country.
Thank you.
On your second question about the Women's Business Development Center, they are a great resource with multiple locations across the state. They primarily help trying to get women-owned businesses the support that they need to either start the business or keep the business going. They do a number of great programming. They do a great program. I don't know if they've done it in the last couple of years at the Capitol because of COVID, but each year they used to do this big event every year that was a bipartisan event where they would bring women-owned businesses to the Capitol to have sort of the WBDC day. And their funding, for whatever reason, has been under the Comptroller's office for a number of years. And we would like to keep it that way because we have a good relationship with them. We, understand what the payment cycles are and, what their needs are. And we just prefer that we keep it that way. And so would they, rather than transfer it to the ECD.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Representative Nietzsche, you have another question?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So I wanted to kind of go back to the sheet that you were looking at with Senator Austin.
Yeah.
The fringe benefit, and this is really just kind of like something to make sure everybody understands here. So with that change, you are increasing the amount that the Comptroller's office is paying by that, say, was it $20 million?
We were looking specifically at UConn. So for UConn, yeah, it was specifically 20.
And then UConn Health is 39. So it's about $60 million between the two, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if we were to transfer that expense to you and not transfer you the budget for that, then that would then be a net increase in your expenses of $60 million, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I think that's just important for everybody to understand. That's why the block grant was adjusted, because you're transferring the actual budget and the dollars to pay for it. So you can't really, if you just transferred the expense, UConn would be keeping $60 million in their budget to do with whatever they want. And the general fund would have to fund another $60 million in the Comptroller's office to pay for these retirement benefits. So it's imperative that you get both, right? The expense and the budget.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
I have a question for you. So in the business development, women's business development fund, how many persons were managing that in your department?
Representative, I don't know that we have a dedicated staff person. Tara, I'm not sure if you know the answer to that question, but.
Yeah, so I'm going to probably turn it back to Carolyn Mercier here, because I think our business office is the one that most regularly interacts with them. Really, the Women's Business Development Organization is really managing the day-to-day, and then they provide us with the paperwork to release the funds. Is that a correct characterization, Carolyn?
Yeah, so I'm with Carolyn, and yeah, it's really just facilitating the funds transfer. And it's very easy. It doesn't take very much of of my group's time.
There was just one person that was handling that.
Yeah. It's just be a part of the process that we do for many people. So it's not even one person. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Senator Austin?
Thank you. And I'm eating a potato chip, sorry.
I'm sorry.
The Teachers Retirement Board is moving over to the core CT.
Yes,
my
Senator.
understanding. How long is that process supposed to take?
We have been working on this for several years, and the final implementation of it will happen later on this year. I'm sorry, later on next year in 2024.
So it's another year and a half per se, give or take?
Yes, Glenn Churchill, can you speak to that? Or correct me if I'm wrong about that?
Yes, the teacher's retirement system, we are in the midst of a pilot right now, and we're validating that we can do all the calculations and we can handle all the different scenarios. And final part of that will be a statement of work for the entire implementation and a more detailed timeline. So for the teacher's retirement, we're specifically in our initial pilot phase of analyzing that and scoping that. And but the timeline that Sean mentioned would be right, because it would coincide with our upgrade. So it would be in 2024 when we would go live with that.
So 2024 fall or 2020? Yeah, 2024 in the calendar year of 2024 fall or fiscal year 25? Because we're going into fiscal year 24, which ends in June 30th of 24, and then we'll go into fiscal year 25. So you're saying next calendar year at the first part of fiscal 25, give or take?
There's two phases. The first phase would be focused on the calculations, and that's targeted for like January 2024. And then the final go live with the other supporting services for TRS would be in September, October 2024.
And by that time, would that then we would be able to run reports relative to the Teachers Retirement Board and have a more, the legislature would be able to have a greater sense of detail on the teachers' retirement?
Yeah, we would have the same reporting capabilities we do for other modules, and we'd probably have some visibility with the STARS, the State Analytical Reporting System, as well.
And my fourth question, relative to the to UConn and UConn Health and the Board of Regents, is there a plan to move all of them over to Core CT?
Well, they are in scope currently for HR and payroll. Well, for payroll, so we do take feeds from those entities and produce the pay, obviously. But beyond that, no.
So we could, as a legislature, have you ever looked to have the capacity to do so?
I'd have to get back to you. I'd have to look into the history for each one of those. I don't want to comment broadly on all of those.
Yeah.
Like UConn, obviously, they're in full scope for their HR and their payroll. BOR, we're getting feeds from, and other agencies may be doing time entry as well. So I would need to give you a breakdown agency by agency.
That would be great if we could, because I'd like to understand if we could ever get the capacity to do OE and other expenses out of Core CT, which allows us to run reports, also has the added benefit of being transparent relative to the general public on what things are being spent on. It just is having been around state government when Core CT started and the troubles that we had with that has really come a long way relative to the reporting abilities of Core CT. It would be nice if all of the things that the state is paying for would have the capacity to be within the confines of Core CT. So if you could get that to me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee members? No. Is there anything, Controller, that you wanted to add to, some of the, because I don't know if you still had any more questions that you needed to respond to.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else that I'd proactively like to add other than the fact that I believe Sue Keen has our presentation, but I will triple check that just so that the members do have our answers. And all the things that I shared my screen on and all the answers to the questions that we received are in this document. And if there are subsequent questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our legislative liaison, Kevin Kurian, or myself directly. I'm once and forever a House guy, so always respect the legislative process and always happy to answer former colleagues' questions, even if they are senators and not House members.
Right.
That's a joke, Senator. You can laugh.
And Mr.
Well,
Chairman, I just want
you
to
know how we
assure,
operate, and I appreciate you and your staff coming out here and for your responses, and we will be reaching out to you so as we move forward with this budget process.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, and
Mr. Chair,
Susan, yes.
I just want to assure the comptroller that your materials did go out to all of the members, so they have them.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, you and your staff, and then enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
So we're a little early.
okay, better early than late.
This is true. So I think we got to wait a few minutes for the entire DAS team to come on. We've got a few people in, but they're not all in yet.
Hey, Sue, it's Doug. I'm sorry,
Doug.
Mr. Chairman. Hey, I'll send an email to our DAS team to let them all know.
Oh, that'd be fabulous, Doug. Thank you very much.
And if there's no objection to any of the committee members, we might want to start early because I know we always have a lot of information on this particular department.
I'll let you know when the commissioner is in, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Information on
My friend, Mr. Moore, is doing a fine job letting folks know. They're starting to come in, but waiting on the Mr. Chairman, we are joined by Commissioner Gilman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you. Thank you for having us.
Mr. Chair, you're muted.
You are muted.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
There you
Good
are.
afternoon. Thank you,
Afternoon.
Commissioner, for your team and for coming out here and during this working session. We know we on our last meeting we provided there were a number of different questions. You provided some of the answers, and I didn't. I was wondering if we would be able to just kind of give some response, some added response, and we'll give each committee member an opportunity to maybe elaborate or some additional questions if you. I didn't know if you had any of those questions and responses that you can share with us on the screen.
Certainly, I'm so sorry, Representative. Could you just repeat in terms of the information you would like for us to present on, or the questions that you?
Well, there was a number of different questions that were asked, and I know you provided some of the information. You responded to it. So I didn't know if you had those questions and the responses, and you wanted to maybe just go through them and elaborate a little more. And then some of the committee members, if they had any additional questions from your responses.
Certainly.
We can take them question by question if you.
Certainly. So we had, I believe, 2 different submissions. We had follow-up questions from the original hearing before the Appropriations Committee. And then we also had a second set of questions through Representative Nuccio's leadership as well. So I can start with the first from the hearing, if that works for the committee.
Yes, that does.
Okay, terrific. And again, good afternoon to all of you and the members of the committee. Really pleased to see you today. We have a number of our subject matter experts here from our DIS team that are available, per your questions this afternoon. So again, look forward to the opportunity to speak before you today and to discuss additional initiatives taking place at DAS. And certainly any of your questions relative to our budget. With respect to some of the questions that were forthcoming after the Appropriations Subcommittee hearing last month, we had a question from Senator Austin around savings that we experienced following HR centralization. So I do want to acknowledge that there were savings that we have seen in fiscal year 2022. We saw over $1 million in savings in fiscal year 2022, as I noted, and then again, $6 million in savings during fiscal year 23. That's not inclusive of the fringe benefit savings that were also experienced, which were about $751,000 for 2022 and about $2.5 million for 2023. So we're pleased that that consolidation effort not only resulted in efficiencies, but also in savings to the state. And as I've noted, it certainly also helped to streamline processes, procedures, and policies across the executive branch HR functions within our executive branch departments. Would you like me to continue, or do you want me to take questions?
Yeah, just keep. I don't see any hands raised, so if I don't stop you, you can just keep moving through.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much, Representative. We had also received some additional requests for information around our human resources campaign that we launched back in November. That's been primarily on social media channels, TV, radio, billboards, other, avenues to reach, our workforce applicants for, in particular, those positions in healthcare, where we're trying to recruit additional employees to work across our healthcare agencies in a variety of positions, including nurses, social workers, psychiatrists, doctors, and other roles. So back in November, we launched this far-encompassing media campaign. We've spent, I believe, just about $1 million, slightly under, on that media effort to date. And we've seen great success in terms of not only applications coming in to Job Apps, which is our application job portal, but also, again, great response, not only on applications being driven into the portal, but also, really helping to promote the opportunities in the state of Connecticut broadly around our healthcare sector. So our job board visits are up 22% from the previous quarter when we started the campaign. 8,000 applications have been completed from digital advertisements alone. And we've had 72 million plus impressions across all ad channels. So really good response based on the campaign that we've been running to date. And again, over 19.2 thousand visits to the job bulletin pages that we can trace to the advertising campaign. Impossible for us to trace the impact of a television ad or a radio ad directly on the links to then our website. So, it would make sense that actually those job board visits, those application statistics are actually higher because we can only measure those visits that directly transfer from an ad online to the websites. But we know that traffic is driven even higher based on others seeing television ads, radio ads, etc. So again, a very successful campaign that again is making a difference for our health and human service agencies and our healthcare staff that are working to serve patients and clients across the state.
What would you say, I have a question. What would you say your percentage of jobs that have been filled from these, since you've been doing this campaigning?
So let me ask Nick Herms, who is our statewide human resource director and deputy commissioner at DAS, if we are able to quantify the number of them positions hired based on the campaign. Again, we have statistics around job board visits and again, visits and application statistics. But Nick, any additional information that we can extract in terms of jobs hired because of the campaign?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Michelle. Good afternoon, Representative. At the moment, we do not have metrics that would exactly pinpoint this reason as being the reason for the hire. That is something that we are continually looking at our technology to try to determine. However, we are seeing an association of this campaign resulting in more applications, which are resulting in more hires in that area. But we acknowledge that that's really only in general terms. But I can assure you that we are looking for ways to, prove this, for lack of a better term. It's just we don't have it available at this time.
Yeah, because one of the things I speaking with some of my constituents down in the Fairfield County area is that although they say that there are a lot of jobs available, but most of them are up in the Hartford area, which is going to require for them to do a lot of traveling. So I didn't know if you had some kind of when you're doing your campaign, are you kind of giving people the information that there are positions that are actually available statewide or?
That we do, Representative. in all of our communications and in all of our jobs, we indicate where exactly the opportunities are, among other specific information. Generally speaking, what you're describing just happens to be the case where there are relatively fewer state opportunities in southwestern Connecticut. But there are some, Bridgeport, for example, we have, great need for a variety of healthcare roles. The numbers are relatively less than other places, such as Middletown or Hartford.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Any other committee members before we move on? Okay. So you can go to the next question, Commissioner.
Excellent, thank you. So we had also received a question from Representative Zawachowski about the capital area system, which we reference as the CAS. And this provides heating and cooling to a loop of customers in the capital area, the capital complex area. It's really a varied complex of government buildings, some residential, and some other buildings such as the Bushnell Theater. And so the State Department of Administrative Services oversees this capital area system, again, which provides heating and cooling to these customers. So the question was around whether we collect revenue from the state agencies and external customers, of which we do. So for fiscal year 2021 and 2023, we collected just over $11 million, of which 3.1 million was collected from external customers, such as the Bushnell or residential customers, and 8.3 million was collected from state agencies. And I do have Doug Moore available from our facilities team if there are additional questions about the CAS plant, our revenue collections, or overall how this project is moving forward as we upgrade and modernize this facility.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm not seeing the questions.
Okay.
Any hands raised, so you can go on.
Okay, so moving ahead, we had some question from Representative Harrison, and good to see you today, about the carry forward of $15 million for workers' compensation. The adopted fiscal year 2023 budget contained a $15 million carry forward in the workers' compensation claims account to provide funding to settle previous workers' compensation claims. But moving forward in the fiscal year 24-25 budget years, there is no carry forward on those accounts. There was a correction that needed to take place that I believe OFA is working through to make that correction. But I hope that provides additional clarification on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then next, from Representative Harrison, we had also had a question at the hearing about hiring and how the legislature can be helpful. And I want to, again, thank you for that question and for your continued leadership and partnership on these questions. Certainly, we really do rely on your partnership, your ideas, your feedback as we continue to address recruitment and retention of diverse talent in this competitive post-pandemic economy. We do want to bring your attention to a bill that's in the Labor Committee and want to again thank Senator Julie Kushner as well for her work on this bill, as well as the full committee. But this bill, SB 984, an act accelerating the state hiring process, has numerous provisions that are embedded in statute that we think with passage of this bill would enable us to improve the speed of hiring. And that's certainly as our HR teams, our hiring managers across state agencies, agency leadership, and again, the state DAS HR teams have really worked significantly over this past year, especially with a retirement wave that we saw over the summer, to ensure that our position counts for various agencies are indeed meeting the needs of residents across the state. So again, working with agencies to ensure that we have the healthcare staff, engineers, IT professionals, and others to do the work that's required for our state government. And especially given the federal funding that has been coming in through numerous programs. So all, again, looking at the hiring needs of our agencies as we build an efficient, flexible state government, but how can we best serve the needs of state residents? So again, we have this bill, and we've also just recently built an executive branch workforce dashboard. This comes out of Senator Austin and Representative Walker's proposal, which became statute last year, to add more transparency and information around our employee workforce. And so what we've done while we are continuing to send the Appropriations Committee and our legislative partners, and also our labor partners, Excel spreadsheets and PDFs around our workforce monthly. We wanted to also, through DAS and the work of OPM and their open data portal team, we wanted to build a dashboard that anyone in the public, the media, residents that are interested in these issues could look at and see how our executive branch agencies are building on their workforces, where our needs are, and where where we are looking to build up certain agencies and certain areas of our workforce. So really excited about this effort, and we would love to get your continued feedback on how this dashboard can be helpful to you and your constituents and certainly your staffs as well moving forward.
Yeah. Are you
so
finding the dashboard is being helpful, people to be able to do things they need to do, or I mean, is it thorough? Are the steps easier to process and use?
Yes, so we are thrilled that this dashboard not only provides data that can be downloaded and then sorted and adjusted to do various reporting that you as a legislator or again stakeholders may be interested in building reports off of, but it's very easy to use, and there are charts and graphs that are already embedded in this tool. And through the open data portal that OPM oversees and administers, this is a tremendous source of data that the state government utilizes across many, many different departments. So we're really excited that this employee branch workforce dashboard is part of the open data portal, but this is one data set of many, many, many across state government that's part of the open data portal. So really encourage not only our legislators and other stakeholders, but also our residents to really dig in and view this data, because it's really an interesting source of information, but also a very transparent site for anyone to view various data fields, data sets around state government and our activity on multiple topics.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I don't see any hands, so we can move on.
Okay. So we had also had a question, Representative Baker, from you regarding our rents and moving category. So we did provide a breakdown of those expenditures by year for fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. So I believe you should be able to view that certainly on the screen as well. But for fiscal year 2021, just above, just at about $3.2 million were the rents and moving, and then for 2022, just about $3 million, just slightly over, and for fiscal year 2023, $1.8 million. So collectively for those 3 years, just over $8.1 million. And so these funds are utilized for moving services, management, consulting, utilities, and then does have some leasing and rent, tax assessments and liens, and repair and maintenance services. For this next biennium budget proposal, there is also included $1 million for fiscal year 2024 to fund the lease of the DESPE Emergency Vehicle Operator Course Training. DESPE is managing that project, but we are helping to support that in multiple capacities.
How many buildings do you have? We have vacant.
Darren, so let me
can you provide a list of how many vacant buildings and what are the intentions of these vacant buildings? Are they gonna be sold?
And we can certainly provide some broad information today, and then we can provide some additional detailed information to you in writing. But I would ask Darren Hobbs, our Deputy Commissioner for Real Estate and Construction Services, and Doug Moore, again, Director of Facilities and Property Management, if they can provide some additional information on this subject.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Darren Hobbs, Deputy Commissioner, Real Estate and Construction Services. I will hand off right to Doug if I can, or Shane if Shane's on the call.
Yes, I'm actually looking up our amount of space that we have that is currently surplus or unoccupied. And DAS, just to give you a greater context, Representative, DAS, and it's a misnomer, I've worked at the Capitol for many years, we have about 10% of the state's portfolio of property. So when you think of state property, think of UConn, think of the state colleges and university system, think of the DOT and all those train stations. DAS is 10%, but we often get confused as managing all the property because we manage most of the buildings in around the Capital District. So I think so of the 10% we manage, which is almost 6 million square feet of space, I have about 500,000 square feet of vacant space that is unoccupied.
Okay.
But I can't give you the answer statewide. For instance, DCF runs the detention center that was in Middletown. That's empty. That's not part of my list. That's a DCF property. So it's a little misleading, but I can tell you this much. Most of the surplus property I have that is in need of dire capital infusion in order to make it readily available. There's some space we're selling 1820 and 30 Trinity Street. These are two buildings right across the street from the state capitol. We have a purchase and sale agreement. And that's probably 180,000 square feet of that 500,000. So there's a contract in place to sell those buildings. And the purchaser has like a year in order to fill all the requirements, getting tax financing from the city of Hartford, to getting financing for the construction project they wish to do, and anything else they may need. So we're currently scheduled to complete that in August. So we hope that we close and those buildings are no longer part of our portfolio.
Right, and so the funds will be, where will the sale go to, the funds?
I believe to the general fund, unless there's anything in the existing law that would have it go someplace else.
Okay. And so those buildings now, there's still some maintenance requirement in terms of keeping it heated and water and sense and that. Would that be in where you have the leases, rents and all that include maintenance? That would be in that budget, right?
No, rents and moving are a separate line item within DAS, and that deals with leased property only. The money to operate buildings is in DAS's OE account. But specifically to these buildings, we actually had a carry forward from last year of about $915,000 to continually maintain these two buildings, knowing that the state was no longer occupying them but we were in fact selling them, but we have a responsibility to maintain them to a certain degree.
Okay.
And so we're on track to spend almost $900,000 for this fiscal year to maintain those buildings.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I know you had asked a related question as well, Representative, around services for security maintenance as well. And so we have provided that outline between fiscal year 21 and 23 of the costs associated with those particular services. We can go through those in detail again between Darren and Doug. These issues fall under their purview, and they can provide additional information if you would like.
Okay. Thank you. I haven't seen any questions.
Okay.
Okay.
And then next, Representative Baker, you had asked a question around the breakdown on refunds of collections. And I'm going to ask Yoletta Lazowskis, the CFO for DAS, to provide a bit more context on these refunds around collections. Yoletta?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Yoletta Lazowskis. I'm CFO at DAS. And in this table, we're presenting the refunds of collections for the 3 years, FY 2021, 22, and 23 through February 21. As you can see, in 21, we collected about $12,000. In 22, we collected almost the same amount. And in 2023 through February, we collected $20,000, and the total grant is $45,000. This particular account is associated with the collection services, and if there's any detail needed to see who we paid, the refunds were paid to, we're happy to provide. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, you can move on to the next question.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this is the last question on this particular worksheet, so I have an additional question, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead.
So on this one is, and maybe you already answered this, but provide funding for digital government transition from IT investment capital funds of $2.6 million in year 1 and $2.6 million in year 2. And the write-up says that this would incorporate 3 additional staff in fiscal year 24 and an additional 2 staff in fiscal year 25. I'm curious why 24 would not be less than 25, because you're adding staff on in 25. And it's to do the same thing. Is there a reason why?
Thank you for that question. Thank you for the question, Senator, and good to see you. I will ask Mark Raymond, our Deputy Commissioner and CIO for the state, to provide additional detail with that question.
Thank you very much. Senator, while OPM has supported the movement of the position or the establishment of those additional positions, the funding that's provided is not for personal services. The direction is that we utilize existing personal services funds to fill those positions. So in specific, those it means that we will be hiring out of existing personal services to additional people to support our digital program. The transition of funding is around the licensing costs for some of the digital software we have, things like Salesforce and MuleSoft and other products that we use to support the new digital government platform. And so there are some variations on what that funding is, but we are expecting that the staffing for that will continue to be in place, and that DAS will find a way to cover that.
And the funds for 2 staff in human resources to improve the hiring process. Confused about that. Last year, we put in 11 staff. When we consolidated the human resources, we were told it was to save money. And we never lost any staff originally. Then we added more staff on, and then we added 11 staff last year. Now this is 2 more. So at what point would it not make sense to go back to the original way of handling human resources, because we keep adding more staff in here and I'm confused by that. And you're gonna have to make that a little larger if I can, so for me to see, I can't.
So Senator, thank you for the question. And by and large, I'll ask Deputy Commissioner Herms to respond. But I wanted to bring your attention to a few items at the outset. We had provided some information, and I realize you may have not seen the documentation yet that we'd submitted, but around the cost savings for HR centralization initially included not only cost savings related and achieved under HR centralization, 1 million in fiscal year 2022, and then over 6 million in fiscal year 2023 because of the PS line reductions. But also that involves a reduction in the number of positions. So 25 in fiscal year 2022, and then 58 in 2023. So that also, we also saw cost savings under fringe benefits. And so the cost savings are even greater when we include those. The additional 11 positions or those position additions last year, Nick can speak to what those functions were. And then also for the additional 2 this year, which I believe are really around some technology functions and additional data reporting that we plan to continue to provide and expand upon within our HR team. Nick, would you like to provide
before we go to Nick, we never dropped down 58 positions in anybody's count this last year or the year before that. I'll take this and go back on that. The other positions are still in the budget. They've not gone away in the budget. So I am completely, well, you know, I've never appreciated this anyways, because I don't think there has been any cost savings in. If the cost savings are, if you said that we got rid of 58 positions and we got rid of 25 in fiscal, I don't know what fiscal year this is, and then we got rid of another 58 and another 25 and another 58. Is that, where is that? Is that in the last biennium? Is that in the biennium before that? Because it doesn't have anything there. And I'm looking at it and I don't see us, because last year in the biennium, you asked for 11 more positions. That was part of the biennium, and you asked for more positions. So you didn't ask us to cut by 58 positions. You asked for 11 more, which was in last fiscal year. So that doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't add up to the documents that we received in the budget last year. And seeing as I know we never cut 60 positions out of any state agency, that is, and when I asked OFA, they said that we never cut any positions. So I'm not agreeing with this chart that you have here, unless you were moving those positions around. And when I talk to some state agencies, and we have started the same centralization for IT, they're having to keep people in their respective units to do both the HR centralization and the IT centralization. So go ahead, Nick. I just know we never cut 58 positions out of anything, so go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, Senator. So last year, the positions that we requested were around really two primary topics. The first was the splitting of the State Department of Education into CTECs and to the State Department of Education. And they also supported the Office of Early Childhood. So we requested some positions so that we could configure the agency level HR support for that new organizational structure. We also asked for some of those positions to help bolster and support the HR employees supporting the hiring functions in our 24/7 agencies. This year, we're asking for two positions. These positions are geared toward helping to develop new tools for employee support and employee self-service. Again, the goal here in any HR model that you talk about is, wanting to provide the best service and information that we can to our workforce. From the contemporary perspective, companies are more and more moving and leveraging technology and digital tools to do that. We would like to do the same. And the thinking here is, if we can provide that type of support to our workforce, we will better be able to shift our resources toward developing our organization and filling positions at even a greater pace. So that's what our intention here is, and what our vision is. Happy to discuss further if you'd like.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, so let's move on. Do we have any other questions?
So,
Yeah, I wanted to move on to the next question.
Certainly. Certainly defer to you in the committee. This next document is the second document that I mentioned at the outset of the committee. These were a compilation of questions through Representative Nuccio that we are prepared to also go through, as a supplemental document around our positions and other topics. So happy to proceed as we did through the first document as well, and go one by one if that's helpful. Great. So this document or this chart really provides a specific itemization of the DAS positions that we have for fiscal year 2023. I call your attention to the last line under total all appropriated funds in bold, which really summarizes all of the positions, the authorized head count versus the funded head count, which is an important distinction to make when we look at our various personnel counts within our agency and certainly others as well. So we have an authorized head count of 985, but a funded head count, so budgeted head count of 935 positions. Our filled head count as of earlier this week or Friday is 823. We have vacancies that are approved for refill in a count of 97. And of that 97, we have 15 that are currently in active recruitment. So we've made great strides in terms of our vacancies and really looking across our agency at prioritizing the vacancies that are needed within each of our divisions and really looking at new functions, new initiatives that we are looking to support across our agency, and using those vacancies to provide the services that we're charged with providing to our agencies and also to our external stakeholders as well. So I hope that this is a helpful accounting. Certainly at the top layer of the chart, it does identify the various funds by which these positions are funded through, including the Special Transportation Fund, Banking Fund, and others. And if there's no questions on that, we can go down to the next section.
Question.
And this does touch upon Senator Austin's earlier question around the various positions that we are requesting, in particular, the 2 HR positions, and then under IT optimization, which is really a neutral action within state government, moving those positions, but the funding will remain in those respective agencies, but moving those 198 positions to DAS as part of the ongoing IT optimization efforts. And we can continue to scroll down if there's no questions.
You can keep, I don't see any questions.
Okay. This just provides additional information similar to what we saw in the chart up on the top of this document, just providing additional detail around our vacancies. One note to make is we are working on making about 77 positions that we're not planning to refill inactive in core, so that we can really focus within the system on those positions that are funded and that we're focusing on for refills.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair, please?
Go ahead, Representative Nietzsche.
Thank you. So these vacancies, are they in your plan as of 7/1 as full year FTEs?
Yes, that is the case. I will look to our CFO and our HR team for any additional context or clarification.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Of that, so 97 are approved for refill, 15 are pending. So that means what? About 82 of them are just open with no action on them.
Yoletta Lazowskis, our CFO, can provide some additional detail around this. And it is possible that the chart at the top of this document may be more useful to help answer this question. So if we can scroll back up.
So we have in the chart, I think as Commissioner said, it explains better. The column E, it's vacancies approved for refill. It's not necessarily being in the process of hiring or anywhere, but they approve for the refill. The 15 are in the recruitment process and just getting the final stage in core. And we have a filled 823 positions, right? So we have a gap of 50 unfunded positions.
So of the 82, 50 of them are not funded.
Correct.
But I think the 50 is the difference between the 985 and the 935.
Correct.
That's the 50. So you have 97 opens right now.
Correct.
That means 82 of them are open and you're not doing anything to fill them right now.
I don't know how you get that number.
97 minus 15.
No, 97 is already approved. So this is, we already accounting against our funded headcount.
No, I get that, all right, but you have the 935 funded, 823 of them are filled. That's
Correct.
97 open positions. You are actively in the process to fill 15 of those 97.
Correct.
That means there are 82 positions that you are not actively trying to fill right now.
No, we have a gap of 50 unfunded positions.
The 50 is the difference between the 985 and the 935.
That is correct.
Right.
Yes.
So the math on this, all right? Let's just
So
look at the math on this.
if we take filled 823 plus 97 and plus 15, we get 935. So this is what we're saying, that we have funded position 935 and filled vacant. And
yes, that's what I'm saying, right? So you're vacant approved for refill. They're
Correct.
just approved for refill. You're not actively filling them right now.
We just having, we are actively filling. And I will defer that to HR. I don't know if Teresa or Nick can answer that, but what does it say? They can approve for refill. That means it does have a funding.
I understand that. That's not what, I get that. What I'm saying is, are those in your budget for 7-1 as full-time, full-year people?
Correct.
So you think you're going to fill 97 plus 15 people before before July 1st? Have you ever filled 97 plus 15 people in the matter of 2 months, 3 months?
I don't know. I can't provide that answer. We're trying to do our best, but we have a recruitment that we have to post 3-4 times because the market, we can't find the right candidates.
No, yep, I get that. And that's why I'm looking for the fact that if they're in your budget as of 7-1, there's no way you're going to fill all these positions.
But they are accounted in budget 7-1. That is correct.
Okay, that's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
We can move.
All right, thank you.
Then,
And we'll,
Lucio, you okay? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
we'll continue to address the questions in the document. And I think it's important to note on the second page with the anticipated start date of vacancies. And I think Representative Nuccio, this speaks to, perhaps where you were headed with your question, is that these vacancies are really staggered throughout the year. And we look at our various divisions in terms of their respective needs and various initiatives that are coming forth to our department. And so there's not a set date to address all of these vacancies, but they are supported throughout the course of the year and allow us to flex up our team based on agency needs and our partner agencies as well in terms of their demands and needs as well.
But respectfully, ma'am, what she just said is they're all in your budget as of 7-1. That's not staggered. That's assuming you've got 97 full-time, full employees that are going to be there on 7-1 and you're budgeting for that. Staggered means like we're assuming we're going to hire 10 in the first quarter, 20 in the second quarter, and then you reflect that in your personnel services. Instead, this is a budget that's being padded because you're assuming you're filling every one of your vacancies as of 7-1, which, and with 97 people at an average headcount of $94,000, that's a rather large number that's not accurate.
We are planning to utilize all of those vacancies, but we do have to balance our budgetary constraints and then also appropriately balance the needs within our agency for those vacancies and where they're best supported. But I will say that each and every one of those vacancies and the associated funding is critical to our agency mission, and then also serving not only our partner agencies, but our other external stakeholders to provide the services that our agency does. So it's not, with full respect, padding our budgets, but it is carefully balancing those needs. And we do that through strong collaboration across our deputy commissioners, directors, and our budget office.
But this is accounting 101, right? I've got an accounting degree. I know this is literally, it's accounting 101, right? You have full-time employees in as of 7-1 that you're not going to have filled. We know we're not going to have them filled because there's no way you're going to get 97 people hired in the next few months. So this then, that's money that you have as you're planning in your budget that there's no way you're going to spend. That is the very definition of padding from a budgetary perspective. It's okay. I understand what you're saying. I just don't think it's a fair representation of what your workforce is going to look like and what we're asking the taxpayers to pay for when you know that there's opens in there that aren't going to be filled. On 7-1, because that's what the plan is right now, is that it's a 7-1 fill.
Mm-hmm. So related to your question as well, number 4, how many vacancies do we have at year end on June 30th? And that number at the end of fiscal year 2022, for fiscal year 2022, was 250 full-time equivalent vacancies across all funds. And again, that number is a moving number from month to month, as our vacancies are filled throughout the course of the year. And then in terms of our new hires, from July 1st, 2021 to the end of the fiscal year for 2022, we had 92 new hires within that year. And I think we're, again, on track to being at that mark or exceeding that mark for this current fiscal year. Average cost of a FTE is about $94,000. Again, average cost. And then this is a review of the various fringe benefit costs based on retirement tier, retirement plan. And happy to get into any specific detail or questions that you may have on that.
I'm good with that. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, Representative. And then in terms of our lapses, Yoletta, would you please present on our various lapsing accounts, given the specific detail associated with these?
Absolutely. I can take this question.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner. So we did put a link to the OSC report that the Schedule B3 that shows the lapses. However, we did put it a table, if we can scroll to the page 3, to represent two different areas. So DAS, all appropriated funds, and DAS, worker compensation claim appropriated funds. In this table, the column C represents available budget as of 6/30/2022. And from that available budget, what we carry forward in FY 2023. That represents column D. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Do you happen to have the? I'm looking for the lapses as of 6/30 of last year, so that would be the end of the 23, or is this the beginning full year 23? So is that 22, 23, and we're in 23 right now?
Yeah. So the true lapses for DAS was 7.4 million. And true lapse for workers' comp piece, which is row 15 to 25, it was 2.3 million.
Why are those different than what you have here?
Because the column C, it represents the available budget that we didn't spend as June 30, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And we're showing what we carry forward in column D. So if you take a total from, for example, cell C13, 24 million minus 16.5, you're going to arrive to 7.4. That was lapses for DAS.
Okay, are you guys legislatively required to carry forward?
Required. We request for some funds that we had some projects going on and we didn't finish it in one fiscal year. We ask for carry forward in the following year.
Okay, and do you have any idea what your lapses are going to be or what you're projecting right now for lapses for this fiscal year?
So while we are running some surplus in personal service line in OE, we have some projected deficit in insurance and risk management operations and the workers' comp claims.
Okay,
so
do you happen to know what those totals are?
Absolutely. So currently we're running favorable in the personal service, 5 million. We're running favorable in other expenses, 7.6. However, please keep in mind that that includes the carry forward of 14.5 million that was specifically for FEMA unreimbursable expenses. And we do have a deficit of 2.4 million in insurance and risk management operations, and a deficit of 2.5 workers' comp claims. We are planning
workers' comp is so your deficit is 2.4 in state insurance risk management. Was that
correct?
Yes,
we are
2.5 in workman's comp.
Yes, 2.5. Yes.
Okay. And see, Madam Commissioner, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you have a $5 million lapse in personnel services, it's because you're budgeting more than you have for actual headcount. That's the point.
If I can just say something here, I'm not necessarily agree with that statement, because in FY 24 and 25, we're not going to have that large surplus in PS line due to some unfunded differential payments that for IT staff, and also the overtime. And the overtime is primarily because we cannot fill our positions, the retirements that happen July 1, 2022.
Yeah, that's part of the net, right? That's how it is. When you're planning $94,000 for an employee and you're paying, overtime because you don't have that employee, that you still have a net. You're not paying somebody $94,000 overtime, right? So that's the point of the headcount that I'm making. So thank you. This helps very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner?
Likely scroll down. I think we've answered most of the lapse questions through this discussion, but happy to provide additional detail, Representative Nuccio and others as well.
Commissioner, I have a question for you. I'm not sure if it's kind of related to appropriations, but the money that you take in from claims or I guess maybe estates or things of that nature. I think you had stated to me earlier that what goes back into the general fund. Is that correct?
I will ask again, Yoletta Lazowskis, our CFO, or Ray Singh from our team as well, to provide additional information on that. They can provide clarity in terms of where those specific accounts are moving.
My apologies, Representative. Would you mind repeating the question?
So, monies that you receive back, so for instance, for like estate claims, claims that where you have unclaimed property, things of that nature, that money comes back into your department, and then does it go directly back to it goes into the general fund?
That is correct.
All right, so do you keep a detailed list of all the monies that come back through your department?
We definitely can ask to provide the detail. I think what I would like to know, we are talking about insurance and risk management operations, or we workers' compensations?
Well, it would be a list of because if a person has a workers' comp, any money that is refunded back to you, or monies where people have sale of for insurance policies or bank accounts that are unclaimed, monies that you recoup from that, or people are on receiving assistance from the state, but they have insurance. Does that money come back through your department?
So it's under the DAS, it's a collection services. So we definitely can provide that in more detail. Yes.
Okay.
I will take
If
it.
you could do that for me, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And if I could, I apologize, Yoletta, all of those funds from collections, they do go to the general fund?
That is correct, and then goes to OPM.
Okay. Also, okay.
Yep. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Thank you. So, any other committee members have any questions to some of the response?
And then we're close to the end of this set of questions. So if we scroll down, we can look at some questions regarding the ARPA funding that our agency has received and administers. So there's quite a lot of detail in this chart. Apologize for the small type here as well, but we're zooming in as we speak. So we do have a series of projects that we are overseeing. Some really exciting projects that are near and dear to our hearts here at DAS, particularly around the Connecticut Education Network, Wi-Fi connectivity and broadband for public spaces that we administer in partnership with our Commission for Education Technology under DAS. And we also partner with UConn on these various projects. So you can see that's just over $10 million related, expanding the CEN broadband to remaining libraries and municipalities that are not currently in the CEN network for another $21 million. And then upgrading CEN overall for a cost of $41 million. And then also the CEN Charter School Fiber Internet Connectivity Program. And all of these program plans have been submitted to the U.S. Treasury and are pending review and approval. But again, that charter school project is just under $1 million specifically for our charters. And then we have some additional projects, including a multi-purpose community facility project, both for New Haven for $20 million and $5 million for library construction in Manchester, also pending Treasury approval. I'm going to skip down to the Valley Regional High School tennis courts for a cost of $300,000. We're working with the community, with the district, to ensure that that money can be distributed as soon as we have all of the appropriate documentation from the district. And then if we go up again, just one line, helping to support our air quality HVAC program, we have $75 million designated from ARPA funds for this program. And then there was another $75 million in bonding that was provided by the legislature and through the governor last year to support air quality upgrades in school systems. And we expect that awards will be sent out for this program likely next week, but I don't want to be held to that timeline as our team is finalizing the awards and the grant applications as we speak, but that is imminent to be able to distribute out grant funds under that program. So again, all of these programs and projects total to about $174 million. In terms of the various initiatives that we are overseeing.
Okay.
And then,
any
I'm
questions
sorry.
from the committee members? Okay.
Great. And then in terms of the last additional questions, we did also have some additional projects for the capital area system, which I referenced at the beginning of our presentation today, $2 million for the modernization of upgrade for that study and for that project. That's in the governor's recommended budget proposal for fiscal year 2024. And then another $1 million that was proposed to continue the healthcare workforce recruitment campaign for really recruitment for workers from out of state. And so we look forward to working with you and other legislators around both of these items moving forward throughout the budget process.
Okay. I'm not seeing any questions.
Okay.
All right.
And I think that concludes, by and large, the deep subject matter questions that were presented to us as a team. And certainly, again, happy to take additional questions from all of you today.
Well, thank you for your response to some of our questions to you and your staff. We appreciate it. And I think that's all that we will be in touch with you as we can kind of try to wrap up this budget cycle. So thank you, Commissioner, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. And I think we have some follow-ups to get back to you on and look forward to any others you may have. And again, appreciate the collaboration, partnership, and your efforts today and your questions. Thank you again to everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye now.
Take care.
Susan,
I think that's the end of the day, sir.
I think I ran over.
It's all right, just a few minutes. There was some pretty dense questions, and so
All right.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thank you, committee members. Have a good afternoon.